Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad-gita, Chapter 1, Text 39, Translation and Commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Kulakshaye pranashyanti kuladharma sanatanaha dharme nashte kulam kritsnam adharmo bhibhavatyuta. This is Arjuna speaking to Krishna. With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. Purport: in the system of the Varnasrama institution, there are many principles of religious traditions to help members of the family grow properly and attain spiritual values. The elder members are responsible for such purifying processes in the family, beginning from birth to death. But on the death of the elder members, such family traditions of purification may stop, and the remaining younger family members may develop irreligious habits and thereby lose their chance for spiritual salvation. Therefore, for no purpose should the elder members of the family be slain. Now, Arjuna's concern was about dharma and adharma. He wanted to do that which was right and proper and best, and that which was for the overall benefit not only of himself but for everyone in the world. This is how a saintly person should think. Not only thinking about his own benefit or the benefit of his own family members, but vasundhaiva kutumbakam, seeing the whole world as his family members. So, in this series of verses, Arjuna is expressing the fear that with the destruction of the dynasty, then the traditions which are inherent in that dynasty, they also become destroyed. That's one system. If you don't like, if one political force doesn't like some views which are held by a certain group of people, one way to destroy that view is to kill all the people that hold it. And that has been one system of religious persuasion in the past. What was it with those people in South France? What were they called? Cathars? Catars. Yeah, there was one whole area of France where there were people who were considered heretical by the Catholic Church. So to get rid of that heresy, they just killed everyone in the whole area. This was a few hundred years ago. Arjuna was afraid that everyone would be killed in this battle, which actually came to pass. Almost everyone. And as a result, the culture which the people who the members of the civilization, which the culture which they were upholding, that would be destroyed along with the whole generation. Arjuna refers here to Kula Dharma Sanatanaha, which means the various religious and cultural usages which are passed down within the family. And as Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, he was referring to the Varnasrama institution. everyone should follow dharma, is it not?
Yeah.
And we hear talk of Hindu dharma, Christian dharma, and Muslim dharma, and so many dharmas. But dharma traditionally meant that way of life which was practiced within the Varnasrama institution. And the word dharma has been incorrectly translated into English as religion. And therefore, nowadays we speak of Christian dharma and Muslim dharma and Buddhist dharma and all these different dharmas. Yeah, Buddha dharma. I didn't say that, but you can also talk about that. But actually there's no such thing as Christian dharma. And for that matter, there's no such thing as Hindu dharma either. Dharma transcends all of these designations and specifically refers to the usages and the way of life cultivated within the Varnasrama institution. But the Varnasrama institution is very much misunderstood at the present time. And it's been misunderstood for quite a few hundreds of years, but it's been misunderstood by most people. Therefore, at the present time it has a bad name among many people. Overseas, or in the Western countries, when people think of India, they think of the evil caste system. India is equated with Hinduism and with the evil caste system. Did you get that impression? You're from a different part of the world than I. Is that there in Croatia also? That idea is there? In Latvia, did you get that idea, Gangeshwar? I don't know if you can speak enough English to communicate here. Anyway. That certainly in Russia, when Srila Prabhupada was discussing with Professor Kotovsky, which is recorded in the Science of Self-Realization, you can see that Kotovsky has the same misunderstanding of the caste system as is extant all over the world. What's the source of this misconception? It's all over the world, and it began in India itself. That the caste system is meant for, or it practically works as a kind of exploitation of others. But Arjuna, as a bona fide Kshatriya, was very much concerned with the protection of others. That's what the Kshatriya means, one who protects others, not one who exploits others. Now, Ramachandra Bhagavan also appeared in Kshatriya dynasty, and it's well known that he killed a Shudra who was performing tapasya. So you may ask, well, how is he protecting? He just went and killed someone who was engaged in religious activities. But in doing so, Ramachandra protected that Shudra from the adharma he was engaged in. And he protected all Shudras, the whole of society, and all Shudras in particular from gravitating toward adharma. The point is that this person, he was engaging in paradharma, or the activities which are meant for others. Now in the modern age, everything is, the Varnashram system is completely broken down. Brahmanas are Brahmanas in name only. The Kshatriyas, they're not to be seen anywhere. There was an election. That means if there's an election, it means there's no Kshatriya, because a Kshatriya doesn't wait for votes. He just takes charge. And the Vaishyas are corrupt, and then what hope is there for the Shudras? The whole society is totally corrupt. But the original system of Varnashram is created by Krishna. Chartur Varnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad-gita that the system of 4 Varnas is created by me according to individuals' actions and their qualities. This is a very important point. That people's activities should match their inclinations. In the modern way of life, the only or inclination that people can recognize is the desire for money. And therefore, students in the schools, if they're most intelligent, their parents will push them into the medical stream. And if they're a little less intelligent, into the engineering stream. Although that's changing a bit nowadays, but that's how it has been for the last few decades. And Tamil Nadu itself has like thousands of engineering colleges. And parents don't consider that would my child like to be a doctor or an engineer. It's just get in there, throw them in, because these are the professions which are supposed to bring more money. So what we have is pretty much everyone in society is engaged their whole life in some kind of activity which they're not really like, and they may not even be very well suited for. Of course, after studying intensely for many years, one might get some kind of intellectual satisfaction from being a doctor or an engineer. Maybe, not guaranteed. We find so many software engineers also, that's very common in the present age. And practically they have to be, they're writing programs, but they have to be programmed themselves. Programmed to work hard, harder, and more hard until they either have a physical or a mental breakdown, and then they go to the hospital. The mental hospitals in Bangalore are all full with ex-software engineers, and then they bring in more people. So they're programmed to think, yeah, it's great, I'm earning money and I can go and drink beer on the 3 hours a week I get off from the office. You know all about that, huh? You're a software engineer in Bangalore previously, Chitta Hari. Who else do we have? Gauradas was also an ex-software engineer. We're in Chennai, I think. Anyway, there's so many who, instead of going to the mental home, they came to ISKCON and became sane. And apart from the engineers and the doctors, there are others like rickshaw drivers, and how much job satisfaction they get, we don't know, but we don't expect it to be very much. Factory workers, are they really satisfied what they're doing? No, but they're just doing it because they get some money, that's all. Which means that the great majority of the population spends most of their life doing things that they don't want to do. They don't get they have no interest in it, and they don't get any satisfaction from it, but they just work because they get some money. So the Varnashram system balances guna and karma. In other words, what people have a propensity for and what they're suited for, that's the kind of work that they should do. Well, you may say, well, no one has an inclination to work in a factory all day or drive a rickshaw all day, so who's going to be in the factories and drive the auto rickshaws? And the answer is no one. No need of factories or auto rickshaws. It's a much more simple way of life, which in the modern age people think that is primitive. People think that unless you have electricity and pollution and crowded cities, then it's primitive. Although that's the way that people lived for all generations previously. And this was the civilization that Arjuna was afraid was going to get destroyed. Krishna could have said to Arjuna, don't worry if everyone gets killed, we'll build a factory and then everyone will get some job and some work. And Krishna is also concerned to maintain the Varnashram system. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. When dharma breaks down, then Krishna himself comes. Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Krishna comes in every age to re-establish dharma, which means to put the Varnashram system back together again. The Varnashram system is a systematic way of life by which people can practice dharma, beginning with all their activities. If one performs one's swadharma as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra or Stri, then automatically one is performing dharma. But in the modern age, everyone's automatically performing adharma. First of all, by not being engaged in the Varnashram system. That in itself is adharma. Or someone comes to us and says, "Oh, I got a job in a multinational corporation, it's so wonderful." That means they're working for some beefeaters, so that's also adharma. So, it's very much necessary that the Varnashram system be re-established as far as possible. All the ancient system of Varnashram, it may not be possible to re-establish it fully, but unless some attempt is made to establish the Varnashram system, then we can expect society to degrade more and more and more. In the modern age, even in India, things which were unthinkable just a short time ago are now becoming part of day-to-day life. How many people here know someone who's been divorced? Please raise your hand. I need lots of hands. You see, all the devotees from the Western countries, except Gangeshwar, who doesn't understand what's being said, and quite a few from India also. Well, even in the Western countries, divorce was unheard of practically until maybe 2, 3, 4 generations ago. Now, for the Indian people here, you all know someone who's been divorced. Who thinks that divorce is good? Well, even if you do, you don't dare to put your hand up. But still in India, it's not that common, and people think it's not good. But in the Western countries, it's considered normal, not so bad. In the 1930s, when the heir to the British throne married a divorced woman, he had to abdicate his rights for the monarchy.
Who?
I can't remember what his name was.
No. What?
He was the heir, means the Uttaradhikari in Sanskrit, for the British throne. It was the British Empire at that time. But recently the heir to the British throne, Prince Charles, married a divorced woman and didn't abdicate his rights because society has changed. In the 1930s they thought that was very bad, and nowadays they think normal. So this is just one example, and there are many other examples of how society all over the world is becoming more and more sinful in so many ways. One reason people are discontent in marriage is because anyway they're just discontent from the beginning of their life practically. Children from a young age in India, they're forced to go to school with huge piles of books and spend all their time studying, and often we find students, they're just totally frustrated. People are basically not happy because they're just under pressure to work all their lives in something they don't like to do. So the Varnashram system is very scientific. People who are inclined to intellectual activities, they should be engaged in that. Yeah. People who have young boys who have that tendency, the actual leadership qualities, they should be trained from a young age to exercise that. In the modern age, leaders are elected, but they can't protect the citizens. But a Kshatriya has no right to take tax from anyone unless he can protect them. If you need a lock on your door, then you shouldn't pay taxes. The government's duty is to protect the citizens from thieves. So any thieves, they should have their hands chopped off and they can't steal anything anymore. But the government won't do that. They themselves are thieves. They'll take your money by force and give themselves fat salaries. And sometimes they might talk about the welfare of the citizens. So, Bhagavan himself comes to establish a system whereby people can live in this world in a relatively sane manner. Everyone should be engaged. No one should be lazy. Everyone should work. Work doesn't mean 70 hours a week, but in the daylight hours, generally one should be engaged in activities. Daylight hours, yeah. It's not that you work all day and night. And people should be trained, just like a potter trains his son to be a potter. And in this way also, no one has to worry about what their future lively or occupation will be. One of Srila Prabhupada's major contributions to human society was the blueprint for re-establishing Varnasrama. Srila Prabhupada came to teach the highest dharma. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mang namaskaru mame vaishasi satyang te pratijane priyosi me. One Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, bow down to me, and this way you will surely come to me. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. In his purport to this verse, Srila Prabhupada writes that one should be engaged in a manner that throughout the 24 hours one cannot but think of Krishna. And people often ask us, well, how do you do that? If I'm working in my software company, they want me to think of software, not of Krishna. So we can suggest, all right, at least keep a picture of Krishna on your desk, if they allow you to. But in the Varnashram system, everyone is encouraging everyone else to remember Krishna. And it used to be that the farmers ploughing their fields, while driving the bulls, they would sing songs to Krishna. The boatmen plying their ferries across the river would sing to Krishna. Now they've sold their bulls and they're driving tractors. Or they've sold their bulls and they're driving an auto rickshaw in the city. They left the fields altogether. And as they drive past in their auto rickshaw, they're playing loud some horrible cinema music, which is coming directly from hell. And that's actually a fact. If the music that's in praise of Krishna, that will take us to Krishna. And the cinema music, that will take us to hell. But because in modern society people are so frustrated and they're so out of touch with themselves, means that they're performing some activity which they don't like to do. Therefore they feel so frustrated that this kind of horrible music, in a perverted way, it actually appeals to them, and they think it's nice to hear this absolutely demoniac music. So actually it's a fact that everyone should just cut out of this demoniac society and join the Varnashram society. Now at the present time, for young men who are not married, there is an opportunity to join the ashrams of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And those who are intelligent and fortunate, they do so, which is it makes for them a very conducive situation for becoming Krishna conscious. And others, they can remain at home and chant Hare Krishna. But it is difficult to make spiritual advancement when you're very busy working in a job. Because the first thing is, to practice Krishna consciousness, you need time. You need to perform sadhana every day requires time, at least minimum 3 or 4 hours every day to perform the minimal amount of sadhana. And it requires a certain atmosphere also. Because if you're at home and you have to go to work and there's no one else at home who's much interested in Krishna consciousness, it may be difficult to get the enthusiasm every day to rise early and engage in that sadhana. But even if you do manage at home to do some sadhana, then all day you have to engage in various activities with materialistic people. So to give everyone the best possible opportunity to become Krishna conscious, Srila Prabhupada was very much concerned to establish Varnashram communities in which people could live simply on the land and live with devotees, and everyone cooperate together socially and spiritually. So there's some endeavors are being made in this regard. To date, we haven't found many devotees who are very convinced about this. Most of our devotees seem to be very much, as I was saying about the computer programmers, programmed by the ideas of modern society. That even if people are chanting Hare Krishna, they think that, well, how can you live without electricity? That's primitive. Well, was Vyasadeva primitive? What about Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya? They didn't have electricity. Actually, Vyasadeva was able to compose such literature, and people were able to understand that because they lived in a highly advanced civilization. In the modern age, it's very difficult for people to understand the deep philosophical concepts which were given by the Vyasadeva and the subsequent acharyas. And we find even people born in Hindu families asking, do you really believe in reincarnation? Even this very simple principle, they find it difficult to understand because they've been raised in such a materialistic, intelligence-killing so-called civilization. People think that you have to have a good education to be intelligent, but that so-called good education, it destroys intelligence. There's a T-shirt which is quite popular in the Western world. It's written on it, "I was born intelligent, but then I got a good education." But then I got a good education. Because the modern education makes you such a fool that you can only think in such a way that you can go and work like an ass. So you become an intelligent ass. And for all your so-called intelligence, the actual feature of human beings which makes them intelligent in a manner different to the humans, namely the tendency to inquire into spiritual reality, that is killed by modern education. Once Srila Prabhupada was walking in the fields around Vrindavan Dham, when early in the morning, and one farmer saw him from his field, and he came over to Srila Prabhupada, who was walking with his disciples, and bowed down at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada said, this is the value of Indian culture. That even though this farmer has no formal education, he's actually far more intelligent and knowledgeable about the important things of life than anyone in the Western world. He knows that he is in his present station of life due to his previous activities, that he is transmigrating from body to body to body, and that a sadhu should be offered respects to. So even though he probably doesn't know how to read or write, he's far more educated in the actually important things of life than all these big PhDs in the Western world. So actually it's a fact that the modern, grossly materialistic way of life destroys spiritual intelligence. Whereas Krishna's Varnashram system, living simply with a God-centered life, that nurtures spiritual intelligence. So who's primitive? Vyasadeva is the most advanced intellect, and therefore he lived a totally renounced life, even as a householder. The more we try to increase our material facilities, the more we become entangled in the complexities of material life, and the more, or the further away we go from the actual purpose of life, which is to cultivate or spiritual development. Therefore, traditionally, sadhus have chosen to lead a simple life, to minimize our material needs and maximize our spiritual involvement. And the more we increase our material involvement, it's like an inverse ratio. Then the spiritual development becomes less and less and less. The Varnashram system is a system by which our material needs can be taken care of without too much entanglement. No need of big industrial enterprises. No need of importing one product from one country to another. Living simply, but with all needs taken care of, and concentrating the attention of our valuable human life on developing Krishna consciousness. So that is the mission of this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. People think of our society mostly as a temple building society, but it's actually meant for much more than that. It's meant for giving a solution to all the problems of human society at all levels by re-establishing the Varnashram system. So some devotees present here with us today, they're very much, or they're full-time engaged in they're going to get some land and establish some pilot Varnashram project. Those devotees are headed by Sabyasachi Prabhu, who can kindly stand up. He's from the Delhi area but speaks some Tamil, so you can ask him about, if you're interested, you can ask him about this after the class. And today another devotee engaged in this activity in Andhra Pradesh has also come to visit us. It's Kirti Raj Prabhu. So I think maybe half the people here are Telugu speaking, probably. Not more. Who's Telugu speaking? Yeah, not half, maybe 1/3. So anyway, you can ask him about that also. Okay, I just gave a brief overview of the need for Varnashram. And like I said, if you want more detailed question, you can ask these devotees. I have a little note here to make an announcement about the dancing in Kirtan. It's been noticed that some of our devotees, they're dancing in a style which is maybe becoming more like a disco style than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's style. So we request you to chant in a manner pleasing to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, gracefully, with arms raised. So if there are any questions about this upanyasam, please ask. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalo nasjeva, 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 nasjeva gatiranyata. In this Kali Yuga there is no other way, no other way, no other way to attain the spiritual goal but to chant the names of Hari, chant the names of Hari, chant the names of Hari. So that is the prime message. But to create a situation in which people can chant Hare Krishna without being too much disturbed, the Varnashram system is required. So, no question? All right. All right then, we'll finish there, and there's a question.
How to use the technological advancement to improve the life in Varnasrama? Since the Varnasrama main objective is only to preach Krishna, can we use the technology, modern day technology, to in Varnasrama Dharma to please Krishna?
We can use modern technology while preaching in modern society. Just like wood is used to make a handle for an axe to cut down a tree, which is wood. But as far as establishing Varnashram communities, we should keep it as simple as possible. Keep the ugra karmic technology out. For instance, it might seem it's so much easier to use a tractor than to use bulls for plowing. So to buy that tractor, you have to take a loan, and you have to put in diesel, and you have to get spare parts, and there's no end. It's very entangling. Krishna's system is perfect. The bulls, they plow the land, and you go behind them, and you get exercise, and they produce fertilizer as they go along. And by maintaining the bull, you become pious, because that is a dharmic activity. Anyway, it's a big discussion which we can't fully discuss right now. All right, we'll finish there. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.